The president's immigration crackdown has been largely spearheaded by ICE and other federal agencies.
Some state Republican leaders want local police more involved as those same departments try to ease fears in the immigrant community. Fox 4's David Centendry reports.
Dallas's interim police chief appears to be sending a message to undocumented immigrants, wanting them to not be fearful of contacting police and reporting crimes because of their status.
They rather lay low.
Inside League of United Latin American Citizens in Oak Cliff, Hilda Dorte says some undocumented immigrants in the community might be fearful to report crimes to law enforcement, even if they are a victim.
They believe that if they contact the police and report a crime, their immigration status will come up. They may have the risk of being deported.
The federal government is primarily responsible for enforcing immigration laws.
On Wednesday, Dallas Police Department Interim Chief Michael Igo released a video appearing to provide reassurance to undocumented community members.
There are no changes to how the City of Dallas and DPD will provide services. This also means that if you are a victim of a crime, you have the right to report it, regardless of immigration status.
ICE arrested more than 84 targets in the Dallas region Sunday. When asked, ICE's Dallas division has not provided numbers since then, but says it's conducting daily apprehensions. Meanwhile, on the X account for ICE's national headquarters, a post highlights the arrest of a Dallas man named Jiring Alcides Godoy Linares. The post lists his crimes as assault and evading arrest. It does not specify whether he's been convicted.
There is no one in the law enforcement community, in local law enforcement in the state of Texas, that would oppose supporting a fellow federal agent in arresting a violent criminal.
Criminologist Alex Del Carmen says local law enforcement agencies all know their job is to enforce local and state laws, not federal laws like ones surrounding immigration. Wednesday, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick listed his legislative priorities, which include Senate Bill 8, requiring law enforcement to assist the federal government's deportation efforts. It's unclear to what extent of cooperation that bill hopes to achieve, but Del Carmen says cooperation is already happening.
I understand that there may be a requirement that they assist ICE or assist other entities at the federal level. That assistance is already taking place. We have task forces with federal agencies across the state of Texas.
I agree with the portion of seeking those that are criminals.
This LULAC president says there's anxiousness in her community, even for undocumented immigrants who have been obeying local and state laws.
They don't want to be bringing attention to themselves.
Meanwhile, Austin's mayor told the Texas Tribune today that local law enforcement, local police at least, will not be assisting federal agencies regarding the president's recent crackdown on immigration.
The feds arrested more than 80 individuals in North Texas as part of an ongoing immigration crackdown, and there are signs this is just the beginning. Federal agents also carried out raids in Austin and San Antonio this weekend. There are reports tonight that the Trump administration has daily goals for even more arrests nationwide. Fox 4's David Centendry spoke with an expert about what to expect next. David.
Yeah, ICE maintains these are targeted operations seeking criminals, and so far dozens of people have been arrested here in North Texas. Fox 4 spotting a group of handcuffed and shackled men being transported into a van at U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Dallas field office Monday afternoon. It's where 84 people who were arrested on Sunday were taken for processing, according to a Homeland Security spokesperson who says the arrests were for various reasons, from drug charges to overstaying visas. The regional agency is not revealing future plans, but says arrests were primarily made in Dallas, Irving, Arlington, Fort Worth, Garland, and Collin County.
I don't think we arrested any families.
Trump administration border czar Tom Homan maintains the agency is arresting threats to public safety and national security.
I highly doubt that you'll see the grandmother or the child that everybody's worried about being arrested. They may be, but it'll be very, very few cases. The government doesn't want to do that, first of all, and second of all, they don't want to get tied up.
Retired Homeland Security Special Agent A.J. Irwin tells Fox 4 some recently arrested may have been on Homeland Security's radar for several months or even years, but investigators may not have been allowed to move forward with specific arrests during the previous administration.
They already know who these people are. they've been collecting this evidence for a while, so they're targeting people. They're not just doing what we used to do in the old days, where you just go out and raid, certain areas of a city that might have notoriously have a bunch of illegal aliens living in it. No, they're not doing that. It's all targeted.
On Sunday, ICE reported 956 arrests. That's more than triple last year's daily average of 310 non-citizen arrests. Ultimately, the Trump administration wants to increase the daily number of arrests to between at least 1,200 to 1,500 people, according to a Washington Post report.
I know we arrested 2 illegal aliens that had murder convictions that were walking the street. We arrested at least 7 sexual predators, mostly child predators.
Hundreds in Dallas protested the illegal immigration policy on Sunday. The Trump administration says it will allow federal immigration agencies to make arrests at schools, churches, and hospitals, ending a policy that had been in effect since 2011. Homeland Security says criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest, adding, however, officers need to continue using discretion and a healthy dose of common sense around sensitive locations. As of now, it does not appear arrests have happened at those types of locations. Because people keep talking about schools, we decided to reach out to Dallas ISD and Fort Worth ISD earlier today just to see if they are changing any sort of protocols, but no one was available to do an on-camera interview with us.
Substitute teacher at Fort Worth ISD is under investigation after posting a controversial message on social media, flagging the feds, asserting that students at one high school may be in the country illegally because many don't, quote, speak English. The news comes as 2 separate pro-immigrant rallies were held both in Fort Worth and Dallas. Fox 4's Amelia Jones joins us live tonight with the latest. Hey, Amelia.
Casey, in addition to investigating the post that came from a substitute teacher, Fort Worth ISD sent a letter reassuring parents that schools are a safe environment. It's not just Fort Worth ISD, though. Concern and worry are spreading across North Texas, and parents are wondering if it's safe to send their children to school. Undocumented families across the country are feeling fear and worry after the Trump administration announced it would allow agencies to make immigration arrests at schools, churches, and hospitals, ending a policy that had been in place since 2011.
I think children are worried. I think their parents are very worried. I think people wonder what is the next thing.
Bob Sanborn is the president and CEO of the nonprofit organization Children at Risk. He says regardless of immigration status, children's education is protected by law.
The Supreme Court has said that every child has an opportunity for an education, whether they're documented or undocumented. They have the ability to go to school in the United States.
This weekend, Fort Worth ISD says a substitute teacher commented on an X post calling for ICE to raid Northside High School. It says in part, quote, "I have so many students who don't even speak English. They have to communicate through their iPhone translator with me. The government should overhaul the Texas school system." Fort Worth ISD says the district is investigating the post, and per district protocol, the employee is not allowed on campus during the investigation.
And so when you start saying, come raid our school, you're talking about the majority of children in our schools in Texas are Latino. And so you just can't make assumptions.
In a letter to parents and staff, Fort Worth ISD Interim Superintendent Karen Molinar tried to ease concerns by sharing that the district does not ask students or families about immigration status, and student privacy is protected by law. A protest in Fort Worth on Sunday called for the protection of children in North Texas schools. A third-grade teacher in Fort Worth ISD says her students are afraid to come to class.
Yes, just on Friday, 3 of my parents said that they were not sending their kids to school anymore because they're afraid.
A fear Jeanette Martinez says an 8-year-old shouldn't have.
They don't know. They don't know all this is evil, and they're just trying to get an education. Children should not be afraid. They should not.
Sanborn agrees the kids should stay out of it.
Yes, let's solve immigration, but let's not really worry kids any more than they need to be worried.
In our conversation, Sanborn says people are more worried for President Trump's second term as action is happening right out of the gate. President Trump's first term had a more gradual buildup to immigration reform.
President Trump started the second week of his second term in his home state of Florida. House Republicans are holding their annual policy retreat at one of Trump's resorts.
There's nothing we cannot achieve as long as the Republican Party remains united.
Congress needs to agree on a spending bill by March 14th. President Trump would like to see his top priorities stuffed into one large bill with enough support to prevent Democrats from blocking it in the Senate.
We're tracking down the illegal alien criminals. We're detaining them, and we are throwing them the hell out of our country.
While the president has already signed several executive orders addressing immigration, he'd like border security to be a key part of the bill. It could also cover energy policy and extend Trump's 2017 tax cuts.
I'm also eager to get to work with Congress on the largest package of tax cuts and reforms in American history. We got to get that done.
Key to that process will be the new Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, the latest member of President Trump's cabinet to be confirmed by the Senate. Bessent was pushed through in a bipartisan vote, 68-29.
His background and training are tailor-made for this role, and he has the demeanor and character to be an effective secretary.
President Trump's cabinet continues to come together with a final vote on Transportation Secretary nominee Sean Duffy, likely coming Tuesday. This week will also see hearings for more controversial nominees like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard.